And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our great brother Abdul Haleem Muhammad out of Richmond, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Yes, sir. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation with us today. Yes,
and
sir.
I want to thank you for doing the same, inspiring me and many others through your great works of pushing this message.
All praises due to Allah.
Thank you too. I was greatly inspired in listening to your father when he did his, and Brother Haleem and Dr. Haleem and many others that I've tuned into.
Wonderful. Yes, sir. Well, the first question we have for you is, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I first heard the teachings in May of 1967, Mosque number 15, Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Under Minister Hewlin Shaw at that time. Hewlin Shaw became Yahweh ben Yahweh, And that was my first time attending the mosque on a Sunday. I never forget it. And it brings back great memories.
Yes, sir. And what was he, Brother Shaw, who became Yahweh ben Yahweh, what was he like in the younger days?
He was a brother that very scholarly brother. I enjoyed the teaching that I heard that Sunday, but shortly afterwards, I would think a greater blessing came to me because he was removed, and Brother Minister John Shabazz, Abdul Haleem, came into town. In fact, we hit the city around the same time. We lived in the same birdcage apartments at that time, Universal Plaza. And I did not know that it would go down like that, but it came to be that he was the replacement of Minister Hewlin Shaw. And, in my first going out as I was processing, the first visit was on a Sunday, but I went out one Wednesday night. And when I went to the mosque that Wednesday night, I met another brother that always left an impression on me, and we began to be good friends. And that was Captain Sam.
Yes, sir.
Later known as Minister Abdul Rahman.
Yes, sir.
And when I went out to see and hear the teachings that night, he had bought a load of watermelons in from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's farm. And boy, on the back of the parking lot, I so happened to go back there with the believers who's already Muslim, registered Muslim. And what I heard and what I was feeling in the spirit, it was out of this world. And, so that led to greater things. And then so happened to be, I was going to see Willie Mays one night, Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, going out to the stadium. And Brother Captain Sam was in the line as well.
Okay.
And so I spoke to him and hollered at him, and he said, "Hey, come on over here with me." And that began our bond of talking. And after that night of looking at the game, we went up to Pascal's Brothers Hotel and started talking about the teachings. And at the end of that talk, he said, "Next time I come through you, I would like to see what you ex,
Yes, sir.
So that's how I began to develop to come into the teachings in 67. 1967 of about September, I think I got my ex around September that year. Because my first Savior's Day was that coming up 1968, February.
All praises due to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, sir. 1968, hold it down. That's amazing.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And how did your family and friends feel once you told them that you were accepting Islam?
Well, the reason I was in Atlanta was because it didn't agree with my mother and father. Well, my father had passed. My mother and my family at home. And so the decision I came to and that we came to was that I said I would leave out of respect. I didn't want to, cause any disrespect to my mama. So I left going to Atlanta with a friend of mine who had been there one time and another friend of mine that was in the military. So I took a plane from Richmond I'll never forget it, we flew from Richmond to Atlanta. But when I got to Atlanta is when the teachings fully, began to develop in my life. Because at that time, Stokely Carmichael, Brother Touré, and Rap Brown, and Civil Rights Movement, and all of that was going on daily in Dixie Hills and Auburn Avenue and Hunter Street. So I fit right in with that era,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But the teachings of Islam is what I was looking for. And I'll never forget this. A brother that was in the Civil Rights Movement, there was a dear friend of mine named Bill Ware. As different ones was trying to recruit for whether you go to the movement or whether you go this way or that way. He said, brother, if you want to hit it, the teachings, if you like that, go for it and go and see what it's about. So I always respected Bill Ware because we remained friends for a long time. I don't know if he's living or dead now, but if he is, I want to salute him for his kind and wise advice to me. Yeah, without being selfish, you know what I mean? He gave me good guidance.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. Okay, wonderful. And Brother Haleem, people are showing you love all across the country. And we want to thank everyone who continues to like, share, and subscribe to the People's Podcast. 1 second, I want to just get you some of the comments. I see Sister Naima just wrote, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam, family. 1 second. Sister Anita and Brother Kennard, alaikum salam. Sister Mansa says, all praise to Allah. Charleston Jackson says, I love to hear the knowledge. And thank you to our YouTube family, Sister Auntie, We Them Boys, Brother Musa, Brother Kente, all the people who watch on YouTube and all around the world as well. Thank you for each like, share, and subscription. Yes, sir. So what was it about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that made you want to join the nation, sir?
Well, at 18 years of old, I was 18 when I heard, it goes back further than that. In 1956, I was 10 years old when my grandmother took my brother and I and my mama to New York for a visit. And I had a cousin in New York who was a Muslim, but I never really got to meet him. So about 3 or 4 years later, as I became 14 years old, I went back to New York by myself. And my loved ones and kin people told me, said, well, we don't have time to take you around, but you can take the A train from Brooklyn over to, Harlem and up around 125th Street. And I felt very secure and confident. I had no problem with dealing with people. So I began to do that. And I saw different brothers out on the street with the Muhammad Speaks at that time. And so later, of course, Muhammad Ali was very highly visible in the news for his boxing skills. But I heard him say something on TV one night as I was looking, when they had him in court proceedings. He said, "I'm a Muslim minister." And when I heard that, instantly it sort of struck my mind that that's what I wanted to do and be. And so all of this was helping me to begin to develop, to know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do at an early age. I remember the minister saying one time, "Blessed is he who finds his purpose and is found doing." So, when I first came in, I wrote the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, stating that I did want to help and be one of his servants. And so I think all of this is in the divine working or the divine skill of things. For coming in 1967 on one side and then reuniting with the teachings in 1977 on the other side.
Yes,
I think
sir.
Allah's hand was all on my development, because being under the teachings in Atlanta, my first apartment that I had in Atlanta, Sister Rosa Muhammad, Mother Clara's, the messenger's wife, sister, arranged for me to get my furniture from Carlson's Furniture. So it was a lot of Muslims who were connected to the messenger that I met, felt good about. They loved me and I loved them. And of course, my light shined in Atlanta because I brought a lot of people in the teachings, as I did in Virginia. And not only did I meet a lot of them, we had a fast group of FOIs in Atlanta back in the day. It was selling 1,300 Muhammad Speaks, 1,500, 2,000. This was the kind of young group we had there, and Allah blessed me to fit in that group. So, I deeply think about those days because they were special days for me as a young brother, Brother Minister John Shabazz was a brother that helped prepare me in many, many ways. He always said, "Brother, you got to be able to take I wasn't a laborer, but he was talking to me, and later I found out, he said, "Brother, you got to be able to take a bus and stay strong." And, but he could teach that teaching, man, of Islam. Spiritually, he's one of the best. And so I was blessed to see and be around, because these brothers were like 15, 16, 17, 20 years older than myself at that time. So and they were close to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so when young brothers like myself and others, we were always happy to be in the midst of those who were directly connected to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother Captain Sam at that time, he would come in and tell you what the deal with the apostle is doing and what we got to do. And then a lot of the young brothers in the South, they would graduate and move to Chicago because a lot of them knew how to cut meat, knew how to do bacon, and knew how to do fish, preparing, working in grocery stores and things. So as the businesses jumped off, Atlanta was one of the main places that sent people into Chicago to work in your market, your grocery store, the Salam restaurant. So I cherish those memories, and then, I always kept our eyes on and loved Minister Farrakhan's teachings when he would come about too. Because, a lot of time you would hear the speeches on the radio on Sundays. After the meeting, we would sit around and eat in the temple and the mosque there, and the broadcast would come on. But before that, I was in I must say this, I was in the airways of the messenger himself when I said that every Sunday he used to do the broadcast.
Mm.
When I first began to, before I became a registered believer, what was bathing me and teaching me and inspiring me was the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's radio broadcast every Sunday on WERD 430. I would lay right to the radio and put my ear up right to his voice. And I would listen to him teach. You know, I can hear it today, how he would, it just was a beautiful, powerful voice of God, Allah in our midst. And I just felt his spirit coming through the radio. So that led to, you know, strengthening me and making me a devout Muslim. So, you know, it was a blessing for those years, which prepared, I think, me for the help on this side of that letter that I was writing the messenger about wanting to be one of his help. I think that assignment came when the minister stood back up for me, because I immediately came by his side in 1977 to help push the teachings, and he would always he referred to me affectionately in a minute on a couple of occasions as being a one-man army. But I think the class that I came in, all of us graduated on others' shoulders. Those who came in the 30s inspired those who came in the 40s. Those who came in the 50s was inspired by those who came in the 40s. Those who came in the 60s, like myself, we were inspired by the work those who came in the 50s. And so I treasure those who came before us, who laid the work and showed us how to be, you know, very strong helpers. I used to watch the fast movement of Captain Sam back in the day, and I used to love it to be around brothers like that. And they were showing up dedicated to the messenger's teaching to get it going and spreading the word. And it wasn't about egos, it was that we loved the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and saw the fall of America coming. And we want to save all our people from the doom and the destruction.
Yes, sir.
And we can see all that was told to us back then is happening now with the fires over in Hawaii and with the earthquakes and tornadoes in other places. We can see it without a doubt. The fall of the dollar, you know, we can see it. So the messenger was 100% correct. And then to carry it on this side after the fall, this is the final call. Like the minister told me when I first, he asked me what was the first message or paper that was out, and my knowledge, my thinking was it was the Pittsburgh Courier. And so he told me, he said, no, brother, it was the final call. So we're going to rebuild, starting with the final call. But this is the final call to Islam. This is the final call before the doom of America. This is the judgment. So I just wanted to say that about that. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Beautiful, Brother Haleem. And Brother Haleem, people are showing you love all around the world. Brother Artrail says all praise is due to Allah. Brother Thomas says, yes, sir. Sister Kalila says our pioneers are valuable. Absolutely. Sister Kalila, check your Facebook inbox after the interview. Sister Miriam says, Assalamu alaikum family, alaikum salam. Brother Calvin says, teach. And thank you all who are watching all around the world. Back to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
1975, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departs. How does that affect you and your family, sir?
All right, man, that's good talk that you're bringing up now. In 1975, I'm not saying anything to offend anybody, but I never went with Wallace, the son, you know. I must say before 1975, I was blessed to meet the angel of Allah that came to our city, which was Minister Jabril Muhammad. Minister Jabril came to Atlanta when he was writing the book. This is the one, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We need not look for another.
Yes, sir.
I was on Hunter Street, and he came up Hunter Street. Pastor Brothers was the spot for all of us who were believers in that time. Those are brothers who was selling at Muhammad Speaks. We would meet there for coffee and talk and so forth. But anyway, Brother Jabril was coming up Hunter Street, and I had heard bits and pieces of a death plot. And in my receiving things, you know, hearing different things, I guess we were really, it's a spiritual thing. I think all of us who stood up from 75, who got up, what I'm trying to say, those of us who didn't get swallowed up in the fall, it was a divine test, but heard the call in 1977. I think Allah chose us. I was in the home of the minister one day in the palace, and Brother Minister Ibrahim, who does the prayer call in the morning, the prayer line.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was telling me about his beginning, his story, how he first came up. He was around to help the minister with the rebuilding in the early days. Brother Hadi in Chicago now, he used to live in Atlanta. He sells a lot of the pictures and things in Chicago now. Brother Hadi was in the early days of the rebuilding in 1977. So I fit in the same way. I was at the so-called funeral of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I was with the minister all the way when it come to, and I'm pointing out this because I was blessed to be at the burial, at the grave site, to see all the you know, the dignitaries, the first, I mean, the different ones who were laboring near the messenger, with him and for him. And so I always stayed focused on the minister. But after that period of time, when those years went by where I like I said, I didn't partake in going to the change with the change, but whenever the minister would come in a different city, even though he was speaking, you know, with Wallace at the time, I would go. I was with him in Washington, D.C., at Thomas Circle, at the hotel there. In Richmond, Virginia, he came here in the basement of what the mosque, the city mosque. They had a program where he came, and I would go and I would say, well, you know, not now. And there was one or two others who was like that, brother. Even though I was the first to stand with him in Virginia, the first man in the state of Virginia to bring him here. It was a brother in Norfolk. They felt the same way. Brother named Brother Larry. I call him Minister Larry, Student Minister Larry ex-crew, Larry Muhammad now. They had the same kind of love too, you know, for the work of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So in those years, all of us fell and went different ways. But when I heard that the minister was coming back with the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I immediately got in contact with him. And we met. Well, before we met, I would put him on the radio, put his messages, Respect for Life, the tapes he would send in to me And the first final call that came into this city came to me, and I would distribute them. Of course, we had to find who was willing to accept the papers, and you found out later some was with it, some wasn't. So I think Allah blessed me to be the kind of brother that it didn't destroy me in the sense of saying, well, oh, this one not with it. We kept going till we found the right brotherhood and sisterhood that was with the work of rebuilding. And I met brothers like Brother Linwood, Brother Kareem out of New Jersey, different ones who came to the aid of helping getting Richmond back up and going,
Yes, sir.
But my wife and I, we were the first two married Muslims to host the teachings of rebuilding in our home. It started in our apartment over the south side and off of Broad Rock Boulevard, Broad Rock Road. We would have brothers and sisters come back for study groups. We had the study material of Brother Minister and Brother Angel Jabril. And we would later find a building. I found a building here on Deneen Street. From my home, we found a place on Deneen Street. Now, I told you the other day that as your father and Brother Rodney at that time, Brother William and Brother Rodney, they had a 1-2 punch.
Yes, sir.
They were dynamite soldiers and getting things done. Well, I had the same thing here. Me and a brother named Brother Robert. And we wasn't trying to be nothing but helpers in the work. But we had a good personality and good relationship with people. So we were able to build and bring brothers in to help. And this brother I'm telling you about, Brother Robert, and myself, we were in the Muslim, we got a picture. I think my daughter might have sent you that picture. We took a picture in the minister's home on Damon Street, Damon Avenue, in the first stages of the development. We were there. So it's a few of us from this city. Brother Howard, he has passed on. Brother Robert has passed on, but their work and their memories live on with me, because they were big helpers to me, helping getting things organized. And I set up different auditoriums to help bring the minister in and out, to speak, to raise funds, to spread the word. The word was the thing first and foremost, and then of course, we needed monies too. So Allah blessed me to help set up speeches at Virginia State University College, VCU College University. And those honorariums were helpful in the early days to establish a new beginning, So I thank Allah much for that. Most of the things that I was doing at that time was before the birth of my children. So or they were really young anyway. So when you do this type of show and podcast, I greatly appreciate what you're doing, because it helps them to understand, and help give them a stronger foundation to stand on too. And my daughter and y'all were small and babies and connected, whether you know it or not. She stayed at your home with your parents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful thing that you're doing. Beautiful, beautiful work, not just thing, but beautiful work that you're doing.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yes,
and Brother Haleem, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we want you to know that we thank Allah for you and the sacrifices, the many sacrifices that you have made, as well as the sacrifices of your family. We thank Allah for you all for holding strong and helping to establish Islam here in North America, throughout, of course, the country, but primarily in Virginia in DC and Maryland, that DMV area on the East Coast. We thank Allah for you all holding it down all these years, decades, sir. We thank Allah for you, sir, and your family.
All praise is due to Allah. I've always tried to do it with a humble spirit, not being no way, form, or fashion with ego or I did this, I did that. It all was done by Allah's permission and His choosing,
Yes, sir.
Because there were many who heard the teaching way before me, but I know Allah had His hand on what I was about and doing because of the spirit that Allah had me possessed in me and the spirit that I was able to share with others, I brought many to the teachings on that side and on this side, and I mentioned Minister Abdul Haleem and Minister Rahman, but Minister Benjamin, who lived with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
He was the one who I used to also work close to help build this area up for him to teach. Minister Benjamin was a master teacher at presenting the teachings, and he knew the teaching from living it, and he also had a beautiful humor with him as he taught. Him and his wife, Mother Clara, they were beautiful people to be around. In fact, he introduced me to my wife, Minister Benjamin. I'll always be grateful for him teaching us Islam in Richmond. He would live in Washington and come down here and stay in Richmond and teach on the weekends, Yeah. And the brothers from that day and era, like I said, those who came out of the 30s helped those in the 40s, and those in the 40s helped those in the 50s. So Minister Benjamin was an inspiration to us all the way up the line, Yeah, because he could tell you about the teachings when the messenger was on the run and on the move, and as he was establishing Islam up and down the East Coast. And it was just good to hear these kind of teachings from someone who lived with the dear apostle. And so, it was a lot of beauty in being around Minister Benjamin. Minister Benjamin X. Mitchell, he used to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And Brother Haleem, people are showing you love all across the country. His name says all praise to Allah. Brother Calvin says all praise to Allah for the pioneers that helped establish in Richmond, Virginia. Brother said, long live Muhammad, a living legend and a steadfast helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And just people are bearing witness. Praise be to Allah. We thank you. Also, it's funny that you mentioned Pascals. I was honored on many occasions to go to Pascals with Minister Abdul Rahman here in Atlanta. That was one of his favorite places to still go. So I would go with him, with my father, and watch them, talk about the teachings at the table and things of that nature. So I didn't know that Pascals went back so far. So praise be to Allah.
Oh man, that was the spot back in the day. Yeah, I was blessed to be there when Dr. King was living, when he was murdered as well. And it was something, we received orders from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad at that time, not to be, in the crowd at the time of the parade, the funeral, because, I guess we wanted to make sure if anything to break out, we wouldn't be in violation of anything. But they were history days, and the teachings, as the minister, last man standing, the teaching is the last trump card that's to be played,
Yes, sir.
The people have nowhere else to go today but to Islam, and the way it was established by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his divine servant among us, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we forever be thankful for Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad and the closeness they had to accept one another and to listen to one another, for him to stand that brother up again. Yeah. And in doing the work of reestablishing the teaching, Allah blessed me. We didn't have no money from the, you're working from scratch, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
you had
Yes,
to
sir.
come up with ideas. And when I first bought the minister, I say I because I made the contact and the arrangement. I'm not that I'm saying I singularly, but when that happened, the first time he came here in Richmond in 1978, it was a brother who came by my house. He was searching for knowledge and searching for the teaching. So he knew I had tapes of Minister Farrakhan. He knew I had cassettes and tapes of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he came by my house to get some of these tapes, and he was murdered by the police on his way home. Thanksgiving ran around Thanksgiving Eve or Thanksgiving in 76 or 77. He was murdered. The police said they thought he had a gun and he had no weapon at all. His name was Joe Farmer. Joe Farmer Little Joe was what we called him. I had brought him to the teachings too, to the temple to hear Minister Benjamin. Of course, he was a believer. But when the fall came, when the split came, a lot of brothers like himself were searching to get back the understanding of the messenger's teaching. So when he was murdered by the police, Brother Robert and myself, we took the struggle up to get some justice, to find out what was happening. We went to city officials, and of course they was jumping and giving out all kind of alibis and things of that nature. But I called Minister Farrakhan, and I told him that we would like for him to come in and speak to the family and to the community. That's how it began. And that was at 115 Brooklyn Park Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
Black theater there. So that was the foundation. What I mean is that was Allah permit that to happen, but out of that happening is what began to make us come together. So anyway, 6 months after that, that was in January when he came here to speak to the family at that theater. And Brother Kareem and them came in town for the help secure the minister. That's how we met. Brother Linwood, Brother Kareem, and some of the brothers from the East Coast came in. And 6 months later, I asked, would the minister come back? I'm talking to him now on the phone. I'm communicating with him.
Yes, sir.
And he said, I said, for June, I think it was June the 10th, I wanted to have a Black Family Day type of speech set up. And I asked him, I said, may I record it? I have something that I think would work, that would help us. And he said, yes. So it was done. That came about for two reasons. I didn't have the money to pay for the mosque, and I was trying to figure how to raise funds. So I had a white guy that was a person I was in connection with. He had a studio, Liberty Audio was the name of his business. And he had professional equipment. He had professional equipment, high-speed equipment. So he showed up at the mosque auditorium, and I was able to sell those tapes of the minister's message. We might have had 300 to 500 people, but the tapes sold, which helped me to raise money to pay for the auditorium. And it gave the idea of the tape connection. Because at that time, the minister hadn't gone into New York at that time. So when I talked to him on the phone, I was talking to him one day and I said, Minister, you're the voice of Allah, you're the voice of God. I think this would work if we get that high-speed duplicating equipment. And he said, send me the information. And so I did that. And I think that's when Josh took it over from that point. The first duplication of the message came from Richmond, Virginia at the City Auditorium. And then when we started selling those tapes all over the country and all over the world, people started hearing again. And I was at the home of, I went out to Damon to see him one day. He picked me up from the old Roberts Motel out in Chicago. And when we got to the house, he said, you know how Mr. Kamani got in power? He said it was the cassette tape that went before him. I never forget that. And I said, wow. So I always felt a part of history with that. He said the cassette word went forth, and then he came back from being exiled. Spiritually, over here in America, the minister was exiled for a while from New York because so much lies and hypocrisy had set in. But the word went into New York through those tapes and things of that nature. And not only did the word go, but when he came in on the shoulders of 10,000 people that came out that Sunday. Give me liberty or give me death.
Yes, sir.
And Allah blessed me to be there to hear that word delivered. And so we've been given victories, all the way up the line. And I thank Allah for being there and being a part of it. And then, it's just good to hear. And not only that, but during that period of time, I was gathering different ones, together. And like I said, me and Brother Rahman was close. And Brother Akbar told me one day, he said, do you know how to reach him? Because we're trying to get all the different people back that used to be with the messenger. And I said, yes, sir, I know how to reach him, that we stay in touch with each other. He said, well, give him this tape. I want to send it to him. And so I sent it to him. And that's what helped brought him back to the teaching as well. And, when I used to talk to him, as we developed, ones who used to teach you, they see you now up and running and strong. Not that I tried to teach nobody, but they could see your spirit and your energy. And I said, well, the ministers with you, helping and being with again. So that's how that came about.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. And Brother Abdul Haleem, thank you for this great history. People were showing you love all across the world. And Brother Thomas says prison ministry and Spring Street. And Brother Calvin says teach. The Miriam says great history. My uncle, Minister Jamil, says Assalamu alaikum. Minister Haleem is a truly great soldier in Islam. History of the highest speed duplicated. Beautiful. We have a quick 60-second commercial break. For all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast, we thank you for each like, share, and subscription. If you would like to donate, please cash app the People's Podcast. One moment, and we're coming right back to our brother Abdul Haleem Muhammad, with this great history. Man, this is powerful. Thank you very much. 1 second.
A camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 disinfected cleaning services out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon.
Thank you very much, as well as exclusively for you, Black Man, by Sister Helen Muhammad, the Black Man's Sacred Book. This is a book of poetry and spoken word. Please reach out to her, HRSPATROL42@gmail.com. Thank you very much, Sister Helen, for your sponsorship. And lastly, we have Sister Sherry Muhammad with Asiatic Minds. Here we go. She teaches STEM virtually to young kings and queens all across the country. If you would like to enroll your child into AsiaticMinds.com, thank you very much, Sister Sherry. Right back to Brother Abdul Haleem. Yes, sir. Okay, so what was it when after the fall, now you're saying 1977, you always had your mind on the minister. What was it about you that knew that the minister was the one that could help rebuild the nation?
Well, it was my love for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that love for the messenger of Allah carried over to him. Because the way I saw it and what I heard from the messenger was, when you hear him, listen to him. Where he said, go, go. You know, we heard this. And many loved that and respected that, and it was ingrained in their heart. Again, I said, you know, it's a spiritual thing. I think Allah blessed me to receive it like that. And then not only that, but certain things happen in your development, in my development, such as I can point out, I was selling probably more than anybody in this area the Minister's Black Family message from Randall's Island in 1974, 73, back in that time. And I wasn't just selling it for to make money. I was selling it because it was a powerful way to resurrect the people.
Yes, sir.
And in so doing, a test came up. I was up at the camp one day, Muhammad Ali's camp, and I'm pushing the message of the minister's teaching. And if you haven't heard that album, you got to hear it. It's a powerful, powerful album. And so anyway, some of those who were in Islam way before me, they asked me, they said, well, you selling that, who you following? We following the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And my response was, I'm secure now, and I'm grounded now. I'm able to handle myself. I didn't argue that. I just, said, well, I'm with the messenger as well, but this is, beautiful teaching. I left it like that. But I'm saying that to say this. That was a test. But out of that test came another beautiful reward for me. I didn't know that the minister was going to be speaking at the Apollo, but by me going up the road getting these record albums, I was buying them in bulks at that time to spread to people in my area here.
Yes, sir.
Brother told me, said, yeah, the minister's speaking tonight at the Apollo. This in 1974, one night only, in the Apollo. And the theme, the message stuck with me. The Star of God. He was You know, when he talked about the messenger telling him to take the emblem out of the
Yes, sir.
out of the uniform.
Yes, sir.
I was there in the audience to hear that. Brother Akbar and I were talking about that one day. He said, "You mean you was up here that night?" Because this was basically New York and maybe brothers and sisters from that area. But I was by doing the work that I was doing, I was blessed to receive the message that he was going to be there that night. And so I went. And it's things like that that stick with the mind and the heart. And it helped me to be ready in 77 when he stood back up. Because I was coming out of Washington, D.C. when I discovered on a book called Black Book Bulletin. If you can find this book, it's a magazine. It was a little store right across the street from where Mouse Number 4 is now on Pennsylvania Avenue. It was a little store, you know, one of them little like 7-Elevens or convenience store. I went in there to get a bag of potato chips and some apple juice. That used to be my thing back then. I used to like apple juice. But anyway, on the cover of this book, the minister was lean and looking mean. I mean, lean and militant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Saying that the nation is back. You know what I mean? That he's rebuilding. I bought that book and I began to share it with different ones here. And of course, you know, different ones was with it. It was hostile territory back then because, like I said, Wallace was in power, but the change is gradually coming now that the minister's standing up. And I was one of those soldiers who believed in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. When I saw the minister taking that position again, right away, I went with rebuilding the messenger's work, you know. But that book, Black Book Bulletin, if we could find a cover there, find that book with the cover of it, you know, it would give great insight to the history of the upcoming mission that the minister's on. A man in his mission. It would help with that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so these are things that have made the way of understanding what, you know, we had to do.
Excellent. Yeah. And Brother Haleem, were you ever faced with fear? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
Was I ever in fear? Well, I don't want to seem like I, you know, no. I've always believed, really and truly. Even in the early days, I've always believed that Allah is real. I was not only the first to help with on the outside, but I was the first to take it in prison. Minister Farrakhan went to the Spring Street prison with me one day because the word was getting around inside the prisons too, different ones I knew. And I went down to the prison. I used to go down there on Tuesdays, I believe it was, Tuesdays and Fridays, or Mondays and Fridays. I used to go in there. And so I asked, he was in town. I was in the car, Brother Dr. Haleem was in the car. And I had promised the brothers in the prison that I would, you know, bring him into the prison to speak to them. But when we got inside the prison, they wanted him to sign his name saying that if anything happened, they would not be responsible. And so where I would do that, he said, no, I can't do that. I represent the nation of Islam. So he didn't go in under those terms. But yeah, I used to go into the prisons to take the message in there. So I didn't really, you know, I wasn't scared or nothing. You know what I mean? I didn't fear anything. And some of the brothers right today in the streets that I used to see, they appreciate the word of coming in. We used to go up to the women's farm, Brother Robin and myself, and we would take the teachings up there as well. Then sisters started going up there on Sundays. And so, we were beginning to stretch out a little bit now. So for about 3 or 4 years, I labored like that. And then it came a term when Brother Haleem, Dr. Haleem, changed things around a little bit. We're growing, trying to make things better. But I always was able to help, not just because of a title, because when I first stood up, it wasn't about a minister or a captain. I just wanted to be a helper. And, but by doing what we did, that title came because we were trying to set up structure. But, it wasn't about trying to be anything but a devoted helper to the Most High Elijah Muhammad and the one that he chose. And I always felt that the minister was the one that he chose, Yeah. So I thank Allah for that. It's something I wanted to tell you, another highlight. Even when your father came to town, we needed a place to hold that meeting, and Allah blessed me to get a church for him to hold that meeting in. And when the Million Man March came, it was under the leadership of Brother Student Minister Hassan at that time, but it was no monies to get it done. The inner workings of setting up something like a place, a venue for the minister at that time, you had to have monies in your city. You had to have monies to get things done. But Allah blessed me to be the catalyst to get it done. The brother at the city auditorium, the manager of it, he was a friend of mine. And so he said, if you with this brother, I will forward your tickets in advance. You sell half, give me the money for half. And the half that you sell, you can use to promote the ministers coming here for radio advertisement, for car rentals, or for whatever you need to do. So Allah blessed me to help in that way as well.
Good, yes, sir.
And so, that made his job easier, the minister in charge at the time. That made his job easier to get that assignment done. And we had a nice crowd that night. We had about, I imagine, 10, 12,000 people almost to come out at the Million Man March, at that rally, Stop the Violence, as the minister was going around the country. And, the money for his hotel expenses, I was able to help make those kind of arrangements and contacts, and we settled up at the end of the night. In fact, I was working that night when he called for me, and I'm mad that I missed that call. But he said, where's my brother who first brought me to the city here, Richmond, Virginia? And I was over, they had a bomb threat there that night at the auditorium. So the news people and the police people, the state police, all of them was wandering around in the building, and I so happened to get caught up in being with the manager over in his office that night. But I thank Allah for whatever Allah has blessed me to do to aid this great cause and this great man and this great mission. And I thank Allah for your father who sat in that seat and was a mover and a shaker, and still is a mover and a shaker. I thank him for you, your mother, the family, your people and my people. It's just beautiful how you and my daughter, y'all the same age.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Y'all came up in the same time. That's why she could tell you she was at your house.
Yes, sir.
You were too young. Y'all were too young to really know each other probably in that way, you know.
Yes, sir.
But it's beautiful today. And the blessing of this all is that I'm able to see young ones now come in and they're carrying the mission on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, some of them I brought their parents in, and now their whole families in there, and they soldiering, and I'm happy to see the great work that they're doing to help carry the nation on forward, you know. And they're smart too.
Yes, sir.
Smart, intelligent, the discipline, you know, and now they're family men and women. And as the devil's army is going down, you know, the white man's army is not increasing the soldiers now, they losing. But ours is gaining. Our recruits is growing by the numbers now. And the service of righteousness is it's a new day.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a new day. Yeah, so I'm thankful for these great experiences of being in the cause of Islam. I thank Allah for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, because if it don't be for him, I don't know where I would be. You know, and then I thank him much too for, I had a failure or two. When I say that, I mean, I had to do 90 days, but Allah bless my spirit and heart to come back from those 90 days and work harder, you know, and work harder. And like the old brothers used to tell us, the old captains and lieutenants, I forever thank Allah for Brother Lieutenant Otis in Atlanta. He became minister for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in Alabama, in Birmingham. And you know, his soldiers showed me how to fish and pay charity and how to stay, you know, defend the brother. I mean, these were beautiful examples we had. I remember these days because here I'm walking in their shoes now. And some of them have left us, but their memories live on. Yeah.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. But I didn't know that you were this whole time. I didn't know that you were the minister during this time and teaching. And I'm learning so much about you, sir. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. All right, well, brother, how much people are showing you love all across the country, saying they love you and your whole family. Take connection on Georgia Avenue. Help save this brother's life. Brother Haleem, Minister Haleem is dropping gems. Brother said that he's the cousin of your wife. And you were the one who planted the seed of Islam in his life. Beautiful. Thank you all who are watching all across the country. One of the reasons he's so serious about Islam is because of Brother Abdul Haleem Muhammad, which is powerful. Yes, sir. So thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you in person soon, inshallah, so that we can, you know, have a dinner and perhaps, you know, I got to hear some more stories about my parents and you and your family as well. I wanted to ask you about what type of music do you like and do you enjoy, sir?
I enjoy all music, gospel, jazz, rhythm and blues, you know. I'm just a music lover, classical music too. So I love good music. And it depends, some days, you know, certain things is called for the mind, it's comfortable to hear, to enliven the spirit. And sometimes you want a little something more serious-minded to go by, but I enjoy all music, yeah. And you got a beautiful family, and I tell you, brothers like Brother Minister Kadir, I must plug brothers like that that I was blessed to meet. Minister Kadir, what a soldier.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What an example. And when you said something about fear, that came up because that brother don't show no fear in what he do. His labor for the cause, you know.
Yes, sir.
I love him. I see him carrying on what the minister wants done with no limit of excuse. No, I mean, it's going to get done, you know. And I thank Allah for all the great ones that have helped, the men and the women.
Yes, sir.
You know? I remember when the ministers come here, my wife used to cook so that we would have a good meal. I thank Allah for the sisters in Fredericksburg, Sister Latifah. She was one who, when I was trying to get I always put the minister in a first class hotel when they ever came to my city.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I put him in the best hotel. And at that time, one of the best hotels was the Commonwealth Park. And so the people there did not want us to have food in the room. But goes to show you how Allah worked. Sister Latifah's grandmother knew the owners of the hotel.
Mm.
And they made a phone call and said, we'll let them do whatever they want to do. So I'm saying that to say that Allah had his hand on us the whole time doing what we wanted to do to help in the cause of Islam. Sister Latifah was a sister that accepted when we were going up and down from Washington and Richmond, stopping in Fredericksburg. Now she's one of those scholars that help run the universities of Islam students, taking care of the students,
Mm.
So many jewels and many great things have happened from us trying to help establish the teaching. And not only that, but one of the key things I think was because of the love. Many people have scholarly ways of doing things, but if you don't have that love to be able to take much, take plenty, to the best of us come out, to the best of oneself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You couldn't handle this. Because in the early days, think about it, we just getting people up. And it's going to be some insults. It's going to be some negativity. But you had to be able to swallow that and look at the greater picture down the line, And the greater picture is today, Richmond is now, it's flourishing,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's flourishing. So I'm always blessed to have a good rapport with people. And I think we were given, one year I got the award, for being, I think now back in the 70s, I was given the first stereo, when my wife and I first got married, the first television we had in our home was from the Nation of Islam.
Mm.
The Nation had a contest going. Whoever sold the most books, tapes, records would get a car, a stereo, a TV. I came in 6th, I think, and we got a television. So we said, wow, we got a TV for our apartment here. Then the next 6 weeks or next drawing, I won a stereo. So now we got music in the house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, and then on the other side, the first time after the nation stood up to rebuild, we were selling ads in the souvenir journal, and Allah blessed me to win a trip. I came in second or third, and I was awarded a trip to California. They said whatever city I wanted to go to within the continental USA of America. So I chose Los Angeles because I'd never been to Los Angeles at that time.
Yes, sir.
And my wife and I, your sister, which is my daughter, she was a baby when we flew out to California. I think that was back in 85, around about 85.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The contest was, I think Brother Secretary from Boston won the trip where he went over to Egypt, I think that's where they went. But yeah, Allah blessed me to receive some awards in the nation from doing the work that way too. Yeah.
Praise to Allah. Yes, sir.
But whenever I would go out to see the minister, it was a doctor here. He was a big help to me. He was born the same day Minister Farrakhan was born, May 11th. Dr. Charles Sutton. And so whenever I needed money to get things done, I could go to him and say, Doc, this is what I'm trying to do. I'll set it up so I pay you back so much and so much, you know. But the way I got things up and going was I borrowed money from him to get a stove and a refrigerator and a sink. My wife made the bean pies and the carrot cakes and sold fish sandwiches and things of that nature. And during the week, we used our little billing for that. And during Sundays, we would hold, you know, our meetings. And we forever thankful for Brother Regional Minister, help me with his name, out of New York.
Hafiz.
Hafiz, yeah. He used to come down to assist us too. The great Brother Hafiz. He used to come down. At that time, he was working under Brother Kareem, Brother Linwood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He would come down to help us teach the teachings, you know. So we were one family up and down the coast, and then of course I bonded with your father too. We didn't necessarily have to see each other regular, but we loved the same man, and we knew we loved the same man and the same mission. So we worked whatever he wanted done, you know. It wasn't no thing about getting it done. We would fall in and do what we had to do. Yeah. So I'm thankful for what you're doing. You and Brother Ben X and all of the crew that's working. This is valuable material. I'm trying to get Maria to get busy here. I had set it up for her. She did an interview on a brother's show named Jack Gravely. And Jack was a friend of mine. He has passed on now, but he had a real good talk show here in Richmond. And he accepted one day to come up with me. He came up to Union Temple Church with me one Sunday, me, him, and a brother named Brother Richard. And he came and the minister was teaching there that Sunday. And he said that was one of the best trips of his life. He was sitting down front. And I'm saying that to say this. He opened up the airways one day and he interviewed Maria when they had a program for the sisters. And he told her, he said, you should go into radio. And so her and Brother Chris, they claimed they were going to do something on the podcast. So maybe this would inspire them to do what you're doing now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we can just continue to spread Islam to our young people, to show them it's another way rather than to be shooting and killing and injuring one another, you know?
Yes, sir.
So I love you for what you're doing. Believe me. And know what else? You always have a nice smile and very pleasant about it.
Oh, praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you always have that. Yeah. Some of your father kin people live here. They used to be close to me. There was a lady named Miss Mary.
Yeah, I'm asking about that.
Yes, sir. I have to ask him about her. She just recently passed. And her son lives out in Seattle now. Whenever he comes here, he always comes by my house to check on him.
Praise be to Allah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Minister, let me do one more question for you. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Continue to like, share, subscribe to this podcast. Minister Jamil says, okay, he said, Minister Haleem came to Richmond as did Minister Arif. He's given a lot of history, and he said he remembers the brother. I want to get Brother Secretary Ernest from Boston. May Allah be pleased. That's the brother who got first place when you got second place in the competition.
Right.
Yes, sir, brother. I said shout out to the mighty MGT, the Soldier Maria. His name is also beautiful. Josh is so pleasant. Praise be to Allah. Thank you all for everyone who continues to show love. Minister Haleem, what would you like your legacy to be, sir?
just a great helper, you know what I mean? But I must say this too before I leave. I mentioned a lot of people by name, and I did not mention Minister Tracy. I must say he's doing an excellent job in Richmond teaching the teacher. He's a beautiful brother, you know, and, you know, when we see the younger ones, you know, like I'm 77 now, approaching 78.
Praise be to Allah.
I see the younger ones turn it on. I'm happy to see them, you know, do the work. And I mean, he's been teaching strong and making me think of some of the old teaching I used to hear from Brother John Shabbat, Abdul Haleem, different ones like that. And when I see brother like Brother Minister Nuri and Student Minister Nuri, and
Yes, sir.
they blessed in these days, man. They blessed and brother, I'm real close to and love my brother out of Baltimore, Brother Salam, Minister Salam. Oh man, these young brothers are, I say young, but they are not young in the teaching, but they're doing great, great things, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But through doing the work, brother, you know, we never know who we are touching that's going to help advance the cause. I think about a brother that told me, his name is Brother out in Phoenix, Brother Sylvester. He said, brother, because of you, I heard the teachings, you know, in a lockdown position. But now he's working out in Phoenix and in dear, precious position to help the minister and to secure things in the National House out there.
Okay,
and
yes,
so
sir.
you never know. Even my son, Thomas, you know, he ain't come home now. Y'all got to meet too, because he come home and he turned a new leaf and he doing, I'm glad to see him walking the walk, you know.
Praise be to Allah.
To see Brother Timothy, a brother here that's a lieutenant now. These men are like maybe 15, 17 years younger than me, but now they got families that's grown and their children is in the nation, getting ready to take it to another level. So it's a beautiful thing to see, you know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I've always admired those who paved the way for brothers like myself, like Brother Thomas Jihad, and those brothers like that came along in the 50s. Like I said, those that came along in the 40s helped those in the 50s, and those in the 50s helped those in the 60s. It's an ongoing thing, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Until we get the whole nation. And we're going to get them because they got to come by us, and it's just a matter of time. And I thank you for letting me do this.
For the
You
honor
know,
of mine,
all this came through me listening to your father. Yeah, when I heard him talk about his experience, I said, wow, we tie in together, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And Brother Sharif.
Praise be to Allah.
Yeah.
And brother, and once again, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank Allah for you and the many sacrifices that you have made, as well as your family. And I wanted to shout out to Brother Hamid, who connected me and you for this interview. I haven't seen him since I was a junior FY, but when he called me and he said, "Do you know who this is?" I said, "No." And he told me his name. I said, "Of course I remember you." So
Yes, sir.
when I was a junior FY camp, it was Brother Hamid who would always give us the DVDs and the tapes when we would drive to Atlanta and all, you know, all that kind of stuff. And
Yes,
I thank him for connecting me with you, reconnecting me with you, so I can have this conversation and now moving forward, get to see you in person, inshallah, as well as your family. Thank you all for watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast.
Good job. Good job.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank him too, and I want to thank Brother Matthew Muhammad. Brother Matthew, one of the great paper salesmen in Richmond. Thank you for letting me say that.
Oh, yes, sir. Anytime. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And shout out to Brother Matthew as well. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.